Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Killing Eve. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, that opening was kind of like heartbreaking because, like, Eve, once again, she was under the impression, oh, Nico wants to work it out, and then he gets stabbed, but it's like, hey, he's doing better. Whoever's there is someone that knows Nico, and it's just like, oh, like, I told him marrying you would be a bad idea, and he's almost kind of like saying, like, oh, come, like, oh, I want you to sit. And she's like, oh, and you're talking to him and everything, and literally she's like, I'm gonna find out who did this to you, and he's like pissed off forever. And I was like, oh, that's shitty. Like, yes, does Eve have her faults, but that's super messed up. I mean, if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't, I mean, the argument could be, if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't, how about to say, if it wasn't for her, you'd probably be dead because no one would have probably found you in time. I'm actually super surprised that he's alive. I thought he was super dead. I was like, wow. But at the same time, it's a thing of like, well, he knows that the only reason why he got attacked is because of all the craziness that is her life and everything. But it's just kind of sad to see how, because it was a moment where it's like, yeah, the relationship was complicated, but there was at least love, and then it got super complicated, and now it's gotten ultra complicated to the point there is kind of no more love. And it's just like, oh, it's sad to see things have going down to that point. I even love, like, obviously, because obviously everything is pointing it to being Villanelle. But what was interesting though is that home dude kept saying like, oh yeah, like Nico got pitchforked, and like Jamie keeps looking at him like, and he's like, sorry. Even later on being like, yeah, I know you're going through a lot. You thought Nico wouldn't get back with you. Turned out it was just someone messing with you just so he could draw you there so you can watch Nico get stabbed. Obviously, you're dealing with the whole Kenny situation too, and it's just like, I know you want answers to like just who's killing all these people you care about, because it's just like, it's just happening. It keeps happening over and over again now. So it's like, this is the third person that's important to her that she's lost over the course of this series. Well, almost. Nico almost went down that lane. Well, the argument could be she did in fact lose him because of all this. Granted, he's not dead, but, emotionally she lost him. So there's that side of things. And obviously, like, Eve doesn't think this is Villanelle because she's like, not after the bus, what happened on, is this because of it's like because of what happened on the bus? And then, like, they're like, wait, what happened on the bus? Like, right, you still haven't told anyone about that, have you? And obviously they ended up getting the information on Dasha, so it started making Eve kind of think like, wait, what if this is, what if Dasha's the one that's connected to the 12, and she's also kind of like Villanelle's handler, so that ends up being, an interesting element to all of this. So Eve goes to Carolyn about looking into Dasha, and I even love, like, Carolyn told that story about how she met Dasha and stuff like that, about like, yeah, Dasha grabbed, like, what was it, like a lemon off a tree and bit into it, like took a big bite of it, and the rhyme was still on it and everything. What were you looking? It's like, oh, so it's like, yes, she's like, I need to find a person who did this because I need to look into Dasha because, I need to find the person who went after Nico. And it's like, yeah, but if it's the 12, what's the point of finding this specific person? Is it really worth it when we know who the organization that's behind it? Like, really finding the exact person behind it who actually attack Nico, will it really matter? But she's like, I could say the exact same thing for Kenny, and it's like, for Carolyn, that kind of hit her nerve too, because it's just like, I think she did kind of put herself in, Eve's shoes in that moment. Like, yeah, like, she's so desperate to find who killed, Kenny. So, and even she meets up with her friend later on, Mike, and he's like, oh yeah, poker on Wednesday. She's like, let me check my schedule. And I just love that this casual scene of like, no, sorry. It's like, yeah, my wife, she's making a risotto. It's like, with the mushrooms? And he's like, yeah. She's like, let me see if I can do something. I'm like, this is such an interesting spy conversation to be having. But basically, it turns out Kenny was getting a calls from like a Russian to and from a Russian phone, like, what was it, like a week before he died or something. So that gets Caroline thinking, and so she ends up, meeting up with Constantine later on in the episode, like speeding down the road like a speed demon, scaring the shit out of him. He's like, yes, you don't have to scare me. I already know how scary you can be. But it's like, I want to know, like, what connection you have with my child and stuff like that. He's like, all right, no, I didn't pursue her or anything. Geraldine kissed me. It's like, you kissed Geraldine? It's like, that's not even what she was asking about, but she found that out. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I thought, I didn't expect that. I was like, that's interesting. I don't remember seeing that in the episodes, like, whatever the case may be. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Regardless, the fact of the matter is, it's like, why were you talking to Kenny? What'd you drag him into? It's like, it turns out Kenny was asking me if I was his dad, and it's like, what did you tell him? He's like, I told him the truth. Like, well, told him I don't know. And I was like, that's interesting. I was like, part of me was wondering, is that what that was really about? Is that why he's actually been? Because, like, I mean, Constantine's got his own, like, plans. You know, he's very, like, he's got his own machinations and stuff like that. But I'm like, is that the truth or is he lying? Like, maybe there is truth to that. And I think, well, I mean, I don't know. So I'm curious, was there, like, is that even more reason why he stuck around? Because, you know, Kenny started saying, like, asking the question, and maybe maybe it got Constantine thinking, like, oh, maybe I should, you know. I mean, it's so interesting because obviously he has a complicated relationship with his daughter, Irina, but it's also like, oh yeah, there's a whole situation with Villanelle kind of being like your daughter in a weird way too. So it's like, I don't know, maybe getting to know Kenny, or it might have just been a situation of he used that as an excuse to pump Kenny for information and stuff like that. Maybe not. I don't know. Because what's also interesting about the Carolyn situation as well, I think is most fascinating, is the fact is that when she confronts, prior to that, she had confronted Paul because she was like wondering if Paul, because basically Michael was like, oh yeah, I sent it to your desk like a week ago. That's why I was telling you to get one of these, like basically trying to do it like this, like over the phone, and so, you know, in person, was just because like, but then that's like, Caroline's like, well, you sent it to my office. Paul's in my office. He hasn't said jack shit about this. So she confronts him, is like, are you part of the 12? And he's like, are you? And, you know, it's like, well, obviously we don't trust each other. But to be fair, not trusting each other, not being trustworthy, it's like, oh, should I trust you? It's like, no, you shouldn't. That's kind of like the lane of our work and everything. And so he just kind of nonchalantly walks away out of the conversation. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I love the fact is he's like, well, Caroline, before you leave, this is your office. I was like, oh, we finally get to see your office. And she's like, oh, the lighting's in here is pretty good. I'm like, I love that office bit is a bit. Speaking of Paul, I love that scene where Constantine was coming home and Paul was talking to him and he was like, yeah, he got so scared. He was like, can people please stop waiting for me in the dark? I was like, I love that. It's second time this season already, dude. I love it. It's so good. But also, it's a nerve-wracking scene because Paul is like, yeah, it turns out Kruger wasn't the one behind, you know, Charles wasn't the one behind the money. Might have been someone else. It's like, well, his wife was murdered, so whoever put that hit out on whoever had his wife murdered must be the one behind this. So I need you to find out who called in that hit, because obviously they don't know it was him calling in Villanelle. They don't even know it was Villanelle that performed the hit. I mean, at least Eve's kind of pieced that together, but if that information comes out that, oh, Villanelle did that, well, who would Villanelle do that for if it's not for us? She would do it for Constantine, you know, so not unless they actually know more. I mean, I feel like if they actually knew, they would have killed him right then and there. Well, Paul would have, or it wouldn't have just been Paul just casually having a conversation with him. It would have been, you know, probably Villanelle being sent to kill him again. But regardless. I also love that scene of Constantine being at Irina's hockey game and Villanelle showing up there, like blowing the horn and like doing a humping motion. I'm like, why are you doing that? And she's like, go Irina. It's like, you know, that was the other team that scored. It's like, it was? Go other team. It's like, she get hot dogs. You should never watch sports without hot dogs. And it's like, you know, it's like, oh, how that thing go down with your mom and everything. And it's like, oh. And it's just like, oh, he kind of gets it like, oh, immediately, you killed your mom. He's like, no, Villanelle. It's like, yes, all mothers are terrible and stuff like that and deserve it. But the point is, you don't actually kill them. I was like, oh, that's actually harsh. The fact is that you saying that must mean like you had a fucked up mom. It's like, I mean, you know, I consider myself fortunate. I don't have a fucked up mom. But I just like, oh, that's kind of sad that he's basically saying like every child wants to kill their mother. Just the point is, you realize you just don't. Like, because it's just kind of a big no-no to do that. And obviously it's taking it so long, Villanelle, because she's like, I'm done, I want to quit. And because she had met with Elaine earlier in the episode, and it's like, oh, I kept an eye on you. And it's like, oh, really? In a kink? You've been watching me? In a kinky way? Are you trying to seduce me? I love that question. And it's like, oh, do you know why I brought you here? So you could watch me more? And it's like, nah, because you got the promotion, you're a keeper now. Yeah, oh great. Yeah, now we want you to go assassinate this person. It's like, she's like, this is bullshit. You mean I literally got the raise, I got the new position and everything, but I'm still doing the same shit I was doing before? And it's like, yeah, this is like, wait, you thought you'd be you know, giving orders and stuff like that. Who told you that? So it's like, you know, Oh, Constantine got that in her head, but I think also Dasha too, because Constantine brought up the whole thing about keepers, but that's why it got in her head when she brings it up to Dasha. So I was like, okay. So for her, it's just like I think for her, it's like, it's like, hey, I killed my mom, and it's like at the end of the day, was it worth it? Like, because I think, yes, it wasn't worth it. Obviously, it's taking its toll on her. But I think in her mind, it's like, but at least it's going to pay off in the end. I got this new position. I'm going to be able to, like she needs something to fill the hole in her heart. Like she was looking for something kind of just to make her, I guess, feel something, whether it's like special or important. She needed something, some new challenge. I mean, it was more so a compensation for the fact that, because at the time she thought Eve was dead. So, it was more so kind of filling that hole, but now it's just kind of like it needed to fill this other hole in her, essentially, but it didn't, especially now that she realizes, like, oh, I was excited for nothing because I'm literally doing the exact same thing I was doing before, so she wants out of this whole situation, which obviously, Constantine's like, I promise you, when we settle, we'll call for you, and she's like, no, you're not, and it's like, it's like, because she's kind of like, why don't you leave Arena here and take me instead? And it's just like, and then Arena shows up like, you missed my shot. He's like, oh yeah, it was great. She's like, what is she doing here? I'm not going if she's going. So it's like, and Villanelle's like, okay, cool. That's fine by me. So let's go. When are we leaving? Where are we going? And he won't tell her. And I love her way of getting it out of Arena, because it's like, hey, who is that guy? Was that your boyfriend? She's like, no, that was my dad. It's just like, he's like, overly nice and stuff like that. So it's like, hey, this is a chance, do whatever you want to. And I love Villanelle tricking her into revealing everything, because it's like, oh, you must need me to translate. She's like, well, I'm fluent in Spanish. She's like, okay, we're going to a place where Spanish is necessary. So I was like, it's like, oh yeah, it's hot, so you're gonna have to shave your legs. And she's like, no, you're so old. Not everyone shaves their legs anymore. I don't want to look like a 12-year-old. She's like, you are a 12-year-old. I'm 14. But it's just like, oh, like, what was it? Like, oh yeah, like she references South America, and she's like, you idiot. Cuba is in North America, not South America. And then she's like, Cuba. I'm like, I love her reaction, because she's like, oh, I figured it out. Haha, tricked her into reveal. I just love that. It was kind of adorable. Her tricking her into that. She even suggested, I said, yeah, if you don't like them enough, just, you don't. Well, yeah, because it means like being stuck with her mom, and that's already an issue. It's like, oh, kill him. And it's like, well, obviously it's like, that's not something, it's like, oh, you're a great role model if you're suggesting for me just to kill somebody because I don't like them or whatever, Then we had the whole situation with Dasha and Eve with their confrontation, which turned into a bit of a bowling match. And Eve actually was killing it, because Dasha was like, wait, do you bowl? And she's like, never. So it was just interesting that she was kind of killing it. And obviously Eve knowing like what buttons to kind of push. It's like, oh, I know you're part of the 12. I know this and that. It's like, oh, the fact of the matter is, like, Villanelle kind of paid homage to you and stuff like that with her kill and everything. And she's like, yeah, like, oh, you think you have her under control and everything? She's like, yeah, because I'm the one that took her in. I made her what she is. I molded a piece of shit into steel, essentially, is kind of, what Dasha's kind of, saying, because like one point she's about to bowl, and it's like, I know you're the one that tried to kill Nico, and he's still alive, and it's just like, you can't speak to someone while they're bowling. She's like, that's kind of like against the rules, or just that's effed up, And so it's a situation of like, in Dasha's mind, it's like, no, like Villanelle kind of does what I want to, because like the fact is, she's now, getting a raise and everything. She's in a new position, so you can't touch her now and stuff like that. And obviously, because I think Dasha kind of underestimates how much Eve still means to her. Hell, even Constantine was like, that if we leave, you really think about this, if we leave there, you have to leave everything behind, all your possessions and stuff like that, plus Eve. And she's like, I know, which I think that speaks volumes, but we'll get to that later on. But for Dasha, it's just kind of like, the fact is, you're basically saying you cannot win this game. You can't beat us. You play well and everything, that's fine and dandy, but you'll never win this game. So saying Dasha even being like, I could kill you like right here and right now, showing you like, I guess, like how powerful they are, and just like how you shouldn't underestimate. I mean, it's like, well, the argument could be is like, well, you're not as, because even Homedew was like, yeah, if she was just all about like, if she really still got it, because this is when they were thinking it was still Villanelle, if she really got it, Nico would be dead and not just pitchforked, and that shows that she hasn't 100% got it. I mean, you can make the argument the same thing about Villanelle, because two of her targets, Constantine and Eve, both shot to the heart. They're shots at the heart, but lo and behold, she ended up walking away too soon, so they ended up not dying. So you can also make the argument on that front as well. We even see later on when Eve actually kind of walks by Nico's room. I guess she's going to check on him time to time, but probably to keep her distance, because obviously it's like I said, it's just a situation because she was hopeful, like, hey, like at least she kind of knew where things stood before, like he was ignoring her and everything, but like there was a glimmer of hope for her. It was like, oh, it can all work out, but then it's like, oh, so she knows probably, like, I don't know, maybe there's a part of her that thinks maybe if she does figure this out, stop this whole situation to 12 or whatever, like, you need someone to blame for, like, their relationship being lit. I mean, it's more so about, like, he did get attacked. I don't think it's necessarily about their, it's like, oh, the relationship the way it is because of the 12, but it's still, like, she needs something to focus on other than the whole, like, oh, yeah, like, our marriage pretty much fell apart. I thought it was an opportunity for us to fix it. Turns out it was an opportunity just to kind of make things even worse. The whole point. I mean, and I think it's so interesting because obviously it didn't work out because it was meant to drive a wedge between Villanelle and Eve. I mean, granted, Villanelle is unaware. That's why I'm curious, because even like, I'm curious to see what ends up happening when she finds out that Dasha went after Nico as a means of, well, for one, it's like, wait, he's kind of off limits, but that's kind of supposed to be her deal with Eve. But I'm curious, like, the moment I find out, wait, that was your way to kind of separate me and Eve. I mean, it's like, well, they did share that kiss and everything, so. But I think that not really floating to Villanelle's mind right now shows you just, like, how distraught she is with everything. Because, obviously, like, her assignment this episode, it was super sloppy. She's never usually that sloppy with her kills. Like, yeah, she killed and everything, but she got wounded in the process because she's not focused. Because for her, it's just like, it's like, oh, as the screen says, this is bullshit. So it's like, it's not what she thought it was, and just combined with just killing her mom and just thinking like, at least she thought there would be something worth, maybe it was all worthwhile at the end, but once, like I said earlier, it ended up not being the case. And obviously Dasha's there to kind of, piece her together, and she's just kind of like, I'm done, I'm done with this, I'm leaving, which Constantine told her to keep up appearances. It's like, the moment they think you're going to leave and think something's up, they're going to come after you and get rid of you type of situation. And Villanelle, I love that line of her being like, I'm just going to be, all right, I'm going to act perfectly normal. He's like, then they're definitely going to know something's up. It's like, right, you have to continue acting like your weird self. But like, even this is like her being as distraught as she is. It's like, holy shit. Once again, I said it last episode, that was a side of Villanelle we've never really seen like that. I mean, granted, she was hurt about the whole Eve situation, but just to break down, I mean, to be fair, we didn't see 100% of the aftermath after she shot Eve, like what that really looked like whether it might have looked like that, and we might not have known, but I mean, to be fair, that's different. This is someone you're in love with. This is your mom. Hated her or not, that's still your mom, So I'm curious at the end of the day, like, and that kind of now makes me wonder, did she kind of have a same feeling after she thought she killed Eve? I mean, we know what happened when she thought she killed Constantine. It definitely wasn't that reaction, So that's why I'm curious, But for her to break down in front of Dasha like that, because it's like, she's like, oh, you should be happy, I'm a keeper now you get to go back to Russia. But I'm curious, like, maybe that, because now Dasha's probably realizing, like, oh, she isn't as under my control, because she was supposed to rein Villanelle in, but now the fact is Villanelle's kind of spiraling like this. It means like, oh, like, even if they remove Villanelle from the equation, it's still like Dasha won't get what she wants, because it's like, wait, this mishap is on me somehow. So that's what I'm thinking. So we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening in that regard or not. But obviously it's like, I'm like, is she really done killing? I mean, maybe it's just not necessarily killing. Maybe it's just maybe it's being a hired gun and the killing in general. But it's just like killing her mom shook her to her core. She didn't expect it to, but she was hoping for some reward, something that would just, like I said, make it all worthwhile. Then we also had like the very, very end where Irina's in that car waiting, and I'm like, is she gonna try and kill him? And then like her dad's like across the street or whatever, and then Irina hits him with the car, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe he's still alive. And then she proceeds to run him over, and Constantine's looking like, what the fuck? And Irina looks at him and smiles like, oh, your daughter might have just turned into a little Villanelle. That's concerning. So interesting stuff. I'm really curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode, especially the whole Dasha and Villanelle situation, because it's like, is Villanelle really done? Like is her breaking down like that and everything? We'll see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.